Hello, my friends. Thank you for stopping by the Dishing Out Thanksgiving special. Let's start off with a secret. Actually, I think it's more like an unspoken truth. Turkey is overrated. There, I said it. It's not that it's bad, it's difficult to cook right. It's easy to mess up, and it's just a pain in the giblets altogether. There's a reason why we only have it a couple times a year, and it's not just because it's huge. This year, we anticipate Thanksgiving may look a little different for many of you. Smaller gatherings, less folks, and less mouths to feed. With that in mind, we've crafted a menu that caters to a smaller army, say 4 to 6, but still with enough for leftovers. We'll get rid of the gobbling guy and instead opt for the other white meat, a 3 to 4 pound pork loin that we'll stuff with an herb and sausage stuffing. That's pretty traditional, right? We'll serve up alongside a decadent cheesy potato gratin and a refreshing and bright salad with kale, apple, walnuts, and a honey mustard vinaigrette. What I like most about it is you can make it in about 2 to 2.5 hours depending upon your proficiency in the kitchen. We're going to show you how to do it step by step, starting 2.5 hours out all the way up until you're ready to stuff your face. Whether you're going to make all of this, none of this, or just interested to see what a different kind of Thanksgiving spread might look like, come on with us for the next few minutes. All right, with 2.5 hours to go before dinner, we need to make our stuffing or dressing. To do so, we're going to take 2 hot or sweet Italian sausage links, cut the casing off, and get those into a skillet over medium heat. Once they're in there, use a spatula and start to break and crumble them up. Once they're mostly cooked through and all crumbled up, we're going to add in roughly 1 cup of white or yellow onion, along with 1 cup of diced celery. Give that a stir to combine, season with some pepper, salt, and 2 cloves of minced garlic. Our next addition will be just a little bit of apple. I'm just taking a quarter off of it. I'm going to go ahead and slice that and dice that up. We're going to be using apple in our salad as well, and I like to layer the different flavors in multiple dishes. Get that in, stir to combine, and cook for 5 to 7 minutes until the apples and aromatic vegetables are translucent and softening. Next up, the bread for our stuffing. I'm using a roasted garlic and rosemary loaf that I made. I'll show you how to do that in a future video, but you could use any kind of crusty Italian or artisanal bread. Just cut it up. We'll pulse it in a food processor into small cubes. It's going to get broken down more once we make our stuffing, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Get that into a bowl. We're looking for around 4 to 5 cups total. We'll add our sausage and aromatic mixture to our bread in the bowl. Mix that up a little bit. And now we're going to start adding stock 1 cup at a time until we've reached the desired consistency. You could use beef stock, turkey stock, chicken stock, even veggie stock. It's going to take about 3 to 4 cups depending on the kind of bread that you used, how dry it was, and the texture that you want at the end. I think it should be kind of like dry sand. Not overly moist, but definitely no dry, crumbly pieces of bread either. Alright, that's done. At this point, we should be about 2 hours out. We need to butterfly our pork loin and make our potato gratin. Alright, for your pork loin, you want to trim off any little pieces or that are hanging off the edges, any pieces of fat or silver skin that you see on the outside that nobody's going to want to eat in the final dish. Once you've taken those off, go ahead and turn the loin sideways, press down firmly, and cut horizontally to open it up like a book. Once you've made your first incision, you can kind of pull back and continue making small incisions, being careful to try and cut it evenly, and certainly to not cut all the way through. Once you've got it flat, cover with plastic wrap and pound with a meat mallet. We're not really trying to get it too thin, we're just trying to even the surface out from where we cut it. Season that with some fresh cracked pepper, and a generous dose of salt. This is about a 3.5 pound loin, so it needs plenty of seasoning. Once you've got it all seasoned up, we're going to add our stuffing. I'm going to add about a cup right down in the middle, and if we need to add more, we can. Once that's down on there, we're going to use a spatula and just press it out into an even layer about a ½ inch thick, leaving about 1 inch to a ½ inch around the outside of the loin. Rolling tightly, just wrap from one end of the loin to the other. Don't panic if a little bit of that stuffing falls out. We've got plenty of extra that we're going to bake off in a dish to enjoy on the side. Once you've got it rolled up with the seam side down, using some kitchen twine, tie 2 or 3 ties around the loin so that it keeps its shape and doesn't fall apart in the oven. We need to season the outside as well, so more fresh cracked pepper and salt goes down, and then we're going to put that into a oven-safe baking pan. You'll see why later. I'm using cast iron, but non-stick would be fine. Stainless would be fine as well. Now go ahead and wash our hands, and we're going to take this and put it into a 400-degree oven, which is conveniently located right behind me. It's going to go in there for about an hour until it reaches 140 degrees. We don't have to worry about cooking it to a full 165 like we would a turkey breast. Now let's make our potatoes. 1 cup of whole milk and 1 cup, I think maybe a little more because I didn't have quite enough milk, of heavy cream goes in, so that's 2 cups of liquid total. And now I'm going to use a mandolin to slice up 3 pounds or roughly 3 large russet potatoes. You could do this in a food processor or, be a hero and do it by hand, but the mandolin makes it go much faster. We want those to be about 1/8 of an inch thick, and of course consistency is key. Get those into your milk and cream mixture. We're going to add in about a tablespoon of chopped fresh sage. And then I'm also going to add in about a 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme leaves. Season it up with some cracked pepper and of course kosher salt. Potatoes need lots of salt, so don't be shy. Stir that to combine all the seasonings and the ingredients together, and now a gratin is not a gratin without some kind of cheese. I'm going to be using some Parmigiano Reggiano, about 4 to 6 ounces that I'm going to grate rather coarsely on a box grater, and just dump that whole pile in. Mix that together with a spatula, or honestly you could just use your hands at this point, which is what I'm doing to get it into a baking dish. Go ahead and put most of your potatoes in first and then pour on the milk and cream mixture. You want to push down so that most of the potatoes, as much as possible, are submerged. Go ahead and cover that tightly with aluminum foil, and that's going to go into the same 400-degree oven to start off for 1 hour. 1.5 hours out, we need to make our remaining dressing and make our salad. So just take all that remaining stuffing, and now it goes into a baking dish, which now makes it dressing, and set it aside. We're going to put it in the oven when we're 1 hour out from eating. Let's make the vinaigrette for our salad. 1 tablespoon of good quality honey goes into a bowl, along with a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and the juice of 1 lemon. I hold it in my hand like that so that the seeds get caught in my fingers, but the juice can run through. We're going to season this as we would anything, with salt and pepper, and stir all of those ingredients together to combine. Now drizzle in about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of olive oil. You want to do it slowly, whisking constantly so that the mustard forms an emulsion between the lemon juice and the olive oil, and it does not separate. Now this is kale. If you've never used it before or you're not a fan, I can understand why, and you could certainly use arugula or even romaine in this salad, but if you are using kale, you need to get it away from those big tough ribs that, quite frankly, just are not fun to eat. So just tear it away from that center rib. We're going to chop this up later, so perfection is not needed at this point. We just need to get that really fibrous rib out of the middle. I think that looks like probably just about enough. Now I'm going to ball up all of my kale onto my cutting board, and using a sharp knife, run through and cut it into fine shreds. Kale doesn't really break down in salad dressings like other greens do, so you want to get these pieces pretty fine, otherwise it's going to be tough to chew. Now I'm taking 1 more Granny Smith apple, just like we used in our stuffing, and in this case I'm just going to slice it thinly. How much apple you use is really up to you, depends on how much apple flavor you want with your kale. I did about 1.5 Granny Smith apples total. I'm adding a 6-ounce bag of candied walnuts and dried cranberries and mixing that together. And the final ingredient, is 3 or 4 ounces of goat cheese. I'm just crumbling that in and then adding our dressing. Again, because I'm using kale, we can dress this an hour, even a day, honestly, in advance, and it still holds up. If you're using a different green, you may want to wait to dress it right before you're ready to serve. Toss that to combine and set it in the fridge until we need it. We're an hour out now, so hey, clean everything. No one wants to do that after you eat, and go ahead and pop your dressing in the oven. But like seriously, take this time to clean. Better to do it now than after your belly is distended. 30 minutes out. We're going to remove our pork, uncover the potatoes and finish their cooking process, and make some gravy. Alright, so those don't look that good right now. We're going to give them a little jiggle, back in at 400 for another 30 minutes. And our pork is perfectly cooked to 140, so I'm just going to temp that lightly and let it rest. After about 10 or 15 minutes, you can touch it, get it out of that pan, and look at all that gold that's just right in the bottom there. I'm adding a little bit of butter to our rendered pork fat and drippings because there wasn't quite enough in there. It should be about 2 tablespoons of fat total in the bottom of this pan right now, along with all that golden brown goodness that's going to flavor our gravy. I'm adding 2 tablespoons flour, so equal parts fat and flour. That makes a roux. Stir the butter and fat into the flour until the flour is cooked down and has a nice nutty aroma. And now, oddly enough, I'm using turkey stock to make this gravy. I think it's got just the right flavor to complement the rest of the dish. That gravy comes up to a simmer. 30 minutes later, our potatoes are done. And that gravy looks just about the perfect consistency to me, but you can cook it down a little more if you want it to be a little thicker. I think we're about ready to serve. Let's cut this pork up and see what it looks like. Oh man, that is so juicy. You don't see many turkey breasts that are dripping with juices like that. I'm sorry to say there will not be a taste test this week, friends. All that food got gobbled up, consumed before I could test it on camera for you, but please take my word. It was delicious. In lieu of any kind of taste test, I want to take just a few final seconds and call out another unspoken, or in this case, very spoken truth. The last few months have sucked in many ways for many of us. And I think it's important to note that if you're watching this video right now, you've probably got at least 1 or 2 things to be thankful for. Whether it's your health, friends and family, loved ones that care about you, a job, you've obviously got some kind of money, you have internet service to watch this video. I think it's important to note that we all have things in our lives to be thankful for, and now, probably more than ever, at least in recent history, it's important to take a few moments and be mindful about our blessings, both today and every day. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Happy Thanksgiving.